Hello, my name's James Sheffer and welcome to this lasso tutorial. The tutorial's focus is on converting from the use of lasso8 global variables to using threads in lasso9. It is a great tutorial for those who are just starting with lasso9. First, let me say that there are different ways of creating a thread in lasso9. In this tutorial, we're focused on thread objects, as they are the best way to use threads in a global way and most similar to global variables in lasso9. Now let's go ahead and take a look at a global variable in lasso8. The first thing usually is you start the global off here with the word global, give it a name, and then what type, in this case a map. You can then at any point during your application add information or take away information by using the insert statement in lasso. You can have as many maps, arrays, variables by themselves as you want. Now, globals are a very important and integral part of any type of e-commerce solution, especially a shopping cart. The ability to store information globally and have it available to everyone who uses the site is very powerful. The idea of running your code once and displaying the values without having to run it over and over again is priceless. Now, there are a few problems inherited with globals in lasso8, which is why in lasso9 we use threads. One of those is with each new global, the information is stored in one large kind of container. So the more global variables you add, the bigger this kind of container gets until it can become bloated and starts to consume your server's resources like memory. Now, threads in lasso9 are each contained in their own kind of little world, so you don't have this problem with threads in lasso9. Lasso8 global variables were also multi-threaded, which means they were great for speed and they were safe as long as you used them in read-only mode, which was rarely easy to do. Once you started writing and reading the globals, however, you could have different pages accessing the global at the same time, and if you're reading and changing information, it could get totally screwed up there, which is not what we'd want to have done. Now, the idea of tackling lasso9 threads seems daunting to you. Trust me, you're not alone. That's what the solution for this tutorial is. Hopefully you'll have a better understanding of lasso9 thread objects when you're done here. So let's go ahead and jump right into threads in lasso9. Writing a basic thread object in lasso9 is quite simple once you get the hang of it. Here we have a simple thread object in lasso9, 3 lines. Now, once your thread object is defined, you add to it and delete from it exactly like you did in lasso8 if you want, using insert statements. You can create as many threads as you want, maps, arrays, single variables, however you want to do it. Now, the biggest part of lasso9 in threads is actually just understanding what this means and how it works. So we're going to start off piece by piece, and we're going to start with define. Define is basically defining what the thread object is. In our case, we're defining the thread object named myThread user info as a thread. So the word myThread is basically the name of the thread. We're giving the thread a name so we know how to call it later, basically. You can name the thread whatever you want, it really doesn't matter. The next thing here is what's called an association operator symbol. This basically associates what's on the left of the association operator symbol with what's on the right. And then we have thread. This basically defines the object as a thread. Since we're creating a thread object, we need to define it. This tells Lasso we are creating a thread object and not a type. After that, created in our little squiggly parentheses here, we have parent and map. Now, parent is basically states that the object myThread has a parent type of map. It allows our object to inherit all the traits from the parent map. Maps tell Lasso we are going to define the content of this object as a map. If we're going to use arrays, we'd simply have parent array instead of map. The next line starts off with public. This basically states that this object has unrestricted access as it is. Public is what's referred to as a member method. It's set to public, allowing unrestricted access to the object. It could have been set to private, meaning the method can only be called by the type that owns it, in this case a map, for most parts. There's obviously variables to this, but in this case, we're keeping it simple. The next statement is the onCreate statement with the open and close parentheses. This is basically creating the object with 0 parameters, which means there are no parameters at the moment. We then have the association operator again, saying that everything done here on the left will be part of this here on the right. The second onCreate here basically tells the object to be created with 0 parameters. From this point, other parameters could be added to the tag, but in keeping things simple, this is all we need to do to accomplish our goal. That's pretty much it. We have just created a thread object in lasso9. Now, before I finish this tutorial, let me give you a few little tips and tricks, so to speak. Before I start, you may have noticed in my lasso9 examples that I didn't use semicolons at the end of each line. Lasso9 can interpret where a statement ends, thus semicolons are no longer needed in lasso9. It won't hurt to use them, but they're no longer required and just add extra code. Now, as far as your thread size goes, always keep size in mind. You'll always be thankful you did in the end. Rather than defining one large thread with multiple types of information, it's almost always advantageous to create several smaller threads. Remember, threads perform in their own, quote, little world as opposed to the global variables in lasso8. So you don't have to worry about these growing and becoming problems with the systems and memory. The next thing with threads is to keep in mind the contents. It's always better speed-wise to keep your maps or arrays separate for each thread. Keeping one map or array for each thread object makes retrieving the information much faster. Loading up a thread with multiple maps or arrays will slow down the thread's ability to copy and return the data you need. Now, if you want to learn more about lasso9 and threads, please see the lasso9 language guide on the website. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and found it helpful. For more information on lasso9, please visit the official Lasso website at www.lassosoft.com.